Hello, everyone. Today, I want to explore a concept that is deceptively simple yet profoundly impactful: the wisdom of restraint. It is the idea that what we choose not to say often shapes our relationships just as powerfully as what we do. An intelligent person knows the art of timing, tone, and most importantly, what to leave unsaid. They understand that words are not just tools, but bridges, and sometimes choosing silence strengthens the foundation of those bridges. Let's dive into 7 key principles that help us master this wisdom, especially when it comes to connecting with the women in our lives, be they partners, colleagues, friends, or family members. Silence is often misunderstood. In a world driven by noise, constant communication, and the pressure to respond quickly, silence can feel like a void, an absence of engagement. But what if we reframed it? What if silence is not a lack, but a gift, a tool, a gesture of respect and presence? The power of silence lies in its ability to create space for understanding, for reflection, and for deeper connection. It is not about withholding, but about offering. When we choose silence, we allow ourselves and others to step away from the chaos of hurried reactions. Too often, we fall into the trap of thinking that every moment must be filled with words to maintain connection or prove our value. Yet, in truth, the moments of quiet we share with someone often carry more weight than the words spoken. Silence gives room for emotions to breathe, for thoughts to settle, and for authenticity to rise to the surface. Consider this: how many times have we rushed to respond to someone's pain, discomfort, or joy without truly understanding it? We jump in with advice, with solutions, or even with encouragement, not realizing that the other person might not be asking for any of that. Silence, in contrast, is a way of saying, "I'm here with you, just as you are." It communicates that we don't need to fill the air to prove our empathy or connection. It allows the other person the freedom to express themselves fully, without the pressure of our interjections. Silence can be an act of profound respect. When a woman shares something vulnerable, for instance, an intelligent person understands that the silence that follows is not emptiness, but an acknowledgement of her courage. It's a way of holding space for her, letting her feel seen and heard without rushing to respond or fix. In that silence, she knows she has the room to be authentic and unfiltered. Silence also gives us the opportunity to reflect. Words spoken in haste are often words regretted. When we pause before responding, we invite wisdom into the conversation. We move away from reacting and toward intentional communication. Silence lets us check in with ourselves. Is what I'm about to say helpful? Is it kind? Is it necessary? This intentionality can be transformative, fostering trust and mutual respect. Silence can signal security and confidence. It takes courage to sit in quiet moments without feeling the urge to fill them. In those pauses, we show that we are comfortable with ourselves and with the other person. Silence becomes an unspoken promise: I am not here to judge or control. I am here to connect and understand. The power of silence is that it allows relationships to breathe and grow naturally. It teaches us that connection is not always about doing or saying; it is often about being. It reminds us that sometimes the most profound act of love is simply to listen without interruption and to let the quiet speak volumes. Vulnerability is often misunderstood as weakness, something to be avoided or hidden to protect ourselves from judgment, rejection, or pain. But in truth, vulnerability is one of the most courageous and powerful expressions of the human spirit. It is the willingness to show up, to be seen, and to be authentic even when the outcome is uncertain. Far from being a weakness, vulnerability is a profound strength that deepens our connections with others and ourselves. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we break down the walls that prevent genuine connection. True relationships, whether romantic, familiar, platonic, are built on authenticity. We cannot form meaningful bonds if we are constantly guarding ourselves or projecting an image of perfection. By being vulnerable, we invite others to do the same, creating an environment of mutual trust and understanding. It says, "I trust you enough to share my truth," and that trust is the foundation of any strong relationship. Vulnerability is also the birthplace of resilience. It takes immense courage to acknowledge and face our fears, insecurities, and imperfections. In doing so, we develop a deeper sense of self-awareness and emotional strength. Vulnerability doesn't mean oversharing or exposing ourselves recklessly. It means choosing to share the parts of ourselves that matter most, even when it feels uncomfortable. It's about being honest with our emotions, whether they are joy, sadness, fear, or love, and allowing ourselves to experience them fully. In our interactions with others, vulnerability often unlocks deeper understanding and compassion. When we admit that we don't have all the answers, that we've made mistakes, or that we're struggling, we create a space for empathy. It reminds others that they are not alone in their struggles and imperfections. This shared humanity fosters connection in a way that superficial conversations never can. The fear of vulnerability lies in the fear of being judged or rejected. We worry that showing our true selves will lead to criticism or loss. But ironically, the opposite is often true. When we present a polished, invulnerable exterior, we can come across as distant or unrelatable. On the other hand, vulnerability invites connection because it is real. It's not about being perfect, it's about being honest. Vulnerability also strengthens leadership and influence. Whether in personal relationships or professional settings, leaders who are vulnerable inspire trust and loyalty. By admitting their challenges, acknowledging mistakes, or expressing genuine gratitude and care, they show that strength is not about invincibility, but about integrity and humility. Finally, vulnerability is essential for growth. It's the starting point for learning, creativity, and change. We cannot grow if we're not willing to take risks, fail, and try again. Vulnerability pushes us out of our comfort zones and allows us to explore new possibilities, relationships, and experiences. Vulnerability is not about exposing our wounds for the sake of it, but about embracing our humanity in all its complexity. It is a profound strength that transforms fear into courage, distance into connection, and isolation into belonging. Intentional communication is the art of speaking and listening with purpose, clarity, and empathy. In an age of endless distractions and surface-level conversations, it stands as a powerful tool to create meaningful connections. At its core, intentional communication is about being fully present, choosing words thoughtfully, and fostering a deeper understanding between ourselves and others. It is not simply about what we say, but why and how we say it, with an emphasis on aligning our words with our values and the needs of the moment. One of the most significant aspects of intentional communication is presence. Too often we engage in conversations while distracted, our minds wandering, our attention split between the person in front of us and the notifications on our phones. This lack of focus can leave others feeling unheard or unimportant, eroding trust over time. When we practice intentional communication, we make a conscious effort to be fully present. We set aside distractions, maintain eye contact, and truly listen, not just to respond, but to understand. In this way, presence becomes a gift, showing others that their words and feelings matter. Intentional communication also requires clarity. Many misunderstandings arise because we speak without considering the impact of our words or fail to express ourselves clearly. To communicate intentionally is to pause and reflect before we speak, ensuring our message aligns with our intent. It's about asking ourselves, what am I trying to convey? How can I express this in a way that will be understood? This practice not only minimizes confusion, but also demonstrates respect for the other person's time and emotional bandwidth. Empathy is another cornerstone of intentional communication. It's about putting ourselves in the other person's shoes, considering their perspective, and adjusting our words and tone accordingly. For example, when discussing a sensitive topic, an intentional communicator will approach the conversation with care, choosing words that acknowledge the other person's feelings. Empathy transforms communication from a transactional exchange of words into a relational act of connection. Listening is just as crucial as speaking when it comes to intentional communication. Too often we listen with the intent to reply rather than the intent to understand. Intentional listening involves suspending judgment, resisting the urge to interrupt, and giving the speaker our undivided attention. It's about hearing not just the words being said, but also the emotions and meanings behind them. This type of listening fosters trust and deepens relationships. Intentional communication also involves being mindful of timing. Even the right message can be lost if delivered at the wrong moment. Part of being an intentional communicator is knowing when to speak and when to hold back, allowing the conversation to flow naturally and productively. Intentional communication is a practice that requires self-awareness and commitment. It is about aligning our words with our values, choosing authenticity over convenience, and prioritizing connection over haste. When we communicate with intention, we build stronger, more meaningful relationships and create spaces where trust, understanding, and empathy can flourish. Respecting emotional boundaries is one of the most fundamental aspects of fostering healthy, supportive relationships. It involves understanding and honoring the emotional limits of others, recognizing that everyone has their own unique needs, vulnerabilities, and comfort zones. Just as physical boundaries keep us safe and protected, emotional boundaries serve as the invisible lines that help maintain our psychological and emotional well-being. When we respect these boundaries, we create a space where people feel valued, understood, and free to express themselves without fear of judgment or violation. One key component of respecting emotional boundaries is recognizing that not everyone will be comfortable with the same level of openness or intimacy. What one person may be willing to share freely, another may need more time to disclose or may never feel ready to discuss. It's important to approach conversations with sensitivity and to pay attention to nonverbal cues that indicate discomfort or hesitation. Sometimes it's not just about what is said, but how someone reacts to certain topics or questions. If a person becomes defensive, withdraws, or seems visibly upset, it's a sign that their emotional boundary has been crossed, whether intentionally or not. When we respect emotional boundaries, we are also mindful of the timing and context of our interactions. Not every conversation is appropriate for delving into deeply personal topics, and being attuned to the moment is crucial. There's a time for lighthearted banter, and there's a time for deep emotional connection. Being aware of these shifts and knowing when to steer clear of sensitive subjects is an essential part of maintaining emotional safety in relationships. For instance, pushing someone to talk about a traumatic experience when they are not ready can have a lasting negative impact, making them feel unsafe or vulnerable in ways that they may not be prepared to handle. Respecting emotional boundaries also means acknowledging that no one is obligated to share everything, and silence should never be forced into words. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that if we care about someone, we have a right to know everything about them. However, true respect comes from accepting that there are parts of a person's life or psyche that may remain private, and that's okay. It's a sign of emotional maturity to recognize that not all experiences, memories, or emotions need to be shared, and not all questions need to be answered. Another critical aspect of respecting emotional boundaries is recognizing that emotional needs may change over time. What someone is comfortable with in one moment may not be the same in another. People's emotional states fluctuate based on a variety of factors, such as stress, fatigue, or personal growth. Being attuned to these shifts and checking in with others about their emotional needs without pushing them to open up shows care and respect. A simple question like, "Is this a good time to talk?" or "How are you feeling about this conversation?" can go a long way in ensuring that emotional boundaries are respected. Respecting emotional boundaries is a mutual practice. While we must honor others' limits, we also need to establish and communicate our own boundaries clearly and confidently. Boundaries are not just about protecting others, but also about protecting our own emotional well-being. When we express our needs respectfully and consistently, we model healthy behavior and help others understand how to interact with us in a way that fosters mutual respect. Respecting emotional boundaries creates a foundation of trust, understanding, and safety. It allows relationships to thrive because both individuals feel valued, heard, and cared for without the fear of being pushed beyond their limits. It enables people to show up as their true selves, knowing that their emotional space will be honored. And that is the cornerstone of any meaningful connection. Cultivating curiosity over assumptions is a transformative approach to communication and relationships, one that fosters deeper understanding, connection, and growth. It's natural for humans to make assumptions. They are part of our cognitive process and often help us navigate the world quickly. However, when assumptions go unchallenged, they can create misunderstandings, breed stereotypes, and limit our ability to truly understand others. Instead of making assumptions about someone or something, cultivating curiosity opens the door to exploration and empathy, allowing us to better appreciate the complexity of others' experiences and perspectives. Assumptions are often based on our own biases, past experiences, or limited knowledge, and they can cloud our ability to see a situation or person clearly. For example, if we assume that someone is upset with us based on a brief interaction or a tone of voice, we may act defensively or withdraw, missing the opportunity for a productive conversation. By contrast, curiosity leads us to ask questions and engage with an open mind. Instead of jumping to conclusions, we seek to understand why someone might be feeling a certain way, how their experiences have shaped them, or what might be influencing their behavior. This approach allows us to uncover deeper truths and avoid unnecessary conflict. Curiosity encourages us to embrace the unknown with a sense of wonder rather than judgment. It invites us to acknowledge that there is always more to a person's story than what we can see or hear on the surface. For instance, when someone responds to a situation in a way that seems unusual or unexpected, curiosity allows us to pause and ask, what's behind this reaction? What are they experiencing that I don't fully understand? It creates space for empathy and patience rather than assuming we know the answers or judging the person based on our limited perspective. One of the most powerful aspects of curiosity is that it empowers us to listen deeply. Often, when we make assumptions, we stop listening and start preparing our response. We believe we already know what the other person is going to say or feel, which makes us less receptive to new information. Curiosity flips this dynamic. It requires us to listen with an open heart and mind without the need to interrupt or preempt the conversation with our own thoughts. This kind of listening invites richer conversations and deeper insights, and it shows the other person that we value their perspective. Cultivating curiosity also means questioning our own assumptions and being willing to challenge our own beliefs. It's about recognizing that our view of the world is just one of many, and that others may have very different yet equally valid ways of seeing things. When we cultivate curiosity, we are not only seeking to understand others, but also expanding our own understanding. This process helps us grow, both emotionally and intellectually, and it broadens our worldview, allowing us to engage with life and others in a more thoughtful, compassionate way. Another benefit of cultivating curiosity is that it nurtures a spirit of collaboration and problem solving. When we approach a challenge with curiosity, we're more likely to explore various solutions and perspectives rather than making assumptions about the right answer. In relationships, whether personal or professional, curiosity fosters a spirit of cooperation as we value each person's input and consider multiple viewpoints. This leads to more innovative ideas, better decision-making, and stronger bonds between individuals. Curiosity over assumptions is a practice that allows us to approach life with openness and humility. It encourages us to see the humanity in others and to recognize that everyone has their own complex story. By choosing curiosity, we create the possibility for richer, more meaningful connections, and we open ourselves up to a world of learning and growth. Grace in ambiguity is the ability to navigate uncertainty with patience, trust, and an open heart. In a world that often values clarity, certainty, and immediate answers, ambiguity can feel uncomfortable and unsettling. We live in an era where there's constant pressure to make decisions quickly, to have things figured out, and to know exactly what the future holds. Yet, life is full of unknowns, and the ability to embrace those uncertainties with grace can transform the way we experience both ourselves and the world around us. Grace in ambiguity is about accepting that not everything can or should be controlled. It requires us to release the need for perfection and to step into the unknown without fear of failure or judgment. This doesn't mean we abandon our goals or stop seeking clarity. Rather, it's about recognizing that some things are simply beyond our control and that it's okay not to have all the answers right away. When we allow ourselves to sit with uncertainty, we learn to trust the process and believe that, in time, clarity will emerge. One of the most powerful aspects of grace and ambiguity is the ability to remain calm and centered in the face of the unknown. When we are comfortable with uncertainty, we no longer feel the need to rush into decisions or force outcomes. Instead, we take the time to reflect, to listen to our instincts, and to be present in the moment. This allows us to approach situations with a sense of curiosity and openness rather than frustration or anxiety. It is in these moments of quiet acceptance that we often find new perspectives and solutions that we might have missed if we had been too focused on finding immediate answers. Grace in ambiguity also fosters emotional resilience. Life doesn't always unfold according to plan, and we are often faced with the situations where the path forward is unclear. Whether it's navigating a difficult relationship, dealing with a career setback, or simply managing the ups and downs of daily life, ambiguity is a constant companion. Learning to respond to uncertainty with grace means acknowledging our feelings without allowing them to dictate our actions. It means being compassionate with ourselves when we feel overwhelmed or uncertain and recognizing that it's okay not to have everything figured out. This emotional flexibility helps us stay grounded, even in the most challenging circumstances. Grace and ambiguity enables deeper connection with others. When we embrace uncertainty in ourselves, we are more likely to extend that same grace to others. People are complex, and we often don't know what someone else is truly going through or what motivates their actions. By sitting with the ambiguity of their experiences without rushing to conclusions or judgments, we open the door to more empathetic and understanding relationships. Instead of assuming we know what's best for someone, we give them the space to share their own truths and to navigate their own journey in their own time. Grace in ambiguity also means giving others the room to grow and change. Just as we don't have all the answers right away, we must acknowledge that others may be figuring things out at their own pace. Allowing room for that growth without pressure or expectation can lead to deeper trust and intimacy. It's about understanding that life is messy and sometimes not everything will make sense in the moment. Embracing grace and ambiguity is a reminder that life's uncertainties are not obstacles but opportunities for growth, connection, and self-discovery. When we stop trying to control every outcome and instead lean into the unknown, we find freedom in letting go and trusting that the answers will come when the time is right. This approach to life allows us to stay present, be patient with ourselves and others, and move forward with a sense of peace, knowing that we don't need to have everything figured out all at once. Connection over control is a powerful principle that challenges the common desire to dominate, manipulate, or manage every situation. In a world that often prioritizes power, success, and influence, it's easy to fall into the trap of believing that we need to control the people around us, the outcomes of our endeavors, or even our own emotions in order to feel secure. True fulfillment and deep, meaningful relationships are not born from control. They arise from genuine connection, understanding, and trust. Choosing connection over control requires us to let go of the urge to dictate, to fix, or to hold rigid expectations, and instead to embrace vulnerability, empathy, and shared experiences. When we focus on connection, we shift our attention from what we want to achieve or manipulate to how we can relate to others in an authentic, compassionate way. This means taking the time to truly listen to others, understanding their needs, fears, and desires, and responding with care. Whether personal or professional, we don't always need to have all the answers or solutions. What matters more is showing up with an open heart, acknowledging the other person's perspective, and offering support rather than trying to steer the conversation in the direction we want. This approach leads to more meaningful and reciprocal interactions. People are far more likely to open up and be vulnerable when they feel that they are being heard and understood, not when they feel controlled or judged. Control often creates barriers between people, fostering resentment, defensiveness, and misunderstandings. When we make the choice to connect, however, we invite cooperation and understanding, which in turn strengthens the relationship. Instead of trying to impose our will on others, we allow space for them to express themselves and contribute to the conversation, fostering an environment where mutual respect can flourish. Choosing connection also means letting go of the need to have everything go our way. Life is unpredictable, and trying to control every outcome is not only exhausting, but also counterproductive. Whether we're navigating a challenging work project, managing a personal relationship, or facing uncertainty in our lives, control often leads to frustration when things don't go according to plan. By prioritizing connection, we can step back from the need to control and instead focus on understanding and adapting to the ebb and flow of life's challenges. It's about being willing to relinquish the illusion of control and trusting that. In the process, we can discover more rewarding paths and outcomes. In professional settings, connection over control can lead to a more collaborative and innovative environment. Instead of dictating tasks or micromanaging employees, leaders who prioritize connection engage with their teams, ask for feedback, and empower others to contribute their ideas and strengths. This approach fosters creativity, boosts morale, and enhances productivity because it invites a collective sense of ownership and purpose. Control may create compliance, but connection creates genuine commitment and passion. When people feel valued for who they are, not just what they can produce, they are more likely to be invested in the success of the team and the organization. On a deeper level, choosing connection over control can help us cultivate inner peace. It's easy to get caught up in the anxiety of trying to manage every aspect of our lives. But when we focus on connecting with others, ourselves, and the present moment, we realize that we don't need to have everything perfectly aligned. Life is often messy and unpredictable and beyond our immediate control, and learning to accept that reality with grace can alleviate much of the pressure we place on ourselves. Connection over control is about shifting from a mindset of fear to one of trust. It requires letting go of the need to dominate and instead embracing the vulnerability that comes with allowing others to influence, guide, and shape our experiences. By choosing connection, we open the door to more authentic, fulfilling relationships and a deeper sense of peace within ourselves. When we prioritize understanding and empathy over control, we create space for growth, transformation, and shared joy.